Ready to break free from algorithms, vanity PR, and money-sucking ads? My name's Larissa Worstick, and I've learned in 8 years of jewelry marketing that content is the crown jewel. My agency, Joy Joya, takes a holistic approach, leading with laser-focused storytelling, impactful content creation, and strategic content distribution. This method has worked for the solopreneur as well as the multi-million-dollar company. And now I'm sharing the same systems and tactics with you. Here's to standing out in the sea of sparkle. Welcome to episode 301. This episode is airing on the same day as the closing ceremony of the 2024 Summer Olympics. And I wanted to share some thoughts on the intersection of jewelry, tradition, and marketing. If you think of a medal as a piece of jewelry, well, then Olympic medals are arguably among the most coveted pieces of jewelry out there. I recently watched a video segment about this year's medals, which were designed and crafted by Chaumet. And with this design, Chaumet has made history as the first jeweler ever to design the medals for the Olympic and Paralympic Games. This is truly a significant moment for the world of jewelry. And it got me thinking, nobody is just born with a love for jewelry. There's always a reason behind it, whether it's for nostalgia, accomplishment, self-expression, or even just a tactile connection. Jewelry holds personal meaning, and we grow into loving and appreciating it. And the Olympics this year have highlighted how deeply symbolic and significant jewelry can be. And I think these insights can definitely inform your marketing strategies. By understanding the emotional and symbolic reasons why people are drawn to jewelry, you can craft marketing that truly resonates. Just as Olympic medals symbolize achievement and history, your jewelry as well can connect with customers on a deep personal level. And in the Goldmine segment toward the end of the podcast, I'll also be reflecting on my experiences at the New York City trade shows this year, including New York Now, Melly, and Megan Patrice Riley's Spotlight Designer Jewelry presentation. And if we crossed paths there, it was great to see you. But before we get to the solid gold today, I'd like to take a moment to remind you that this podcast has both audio and video, so you can either listen on your favorite podcast platform or watch on YouTube by searching Joy Joya. You can support the podcast for free by taking the time not only to subscribe, but also to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Also, if you didn't know, I co-host another podcast called Success with Jewelry with my friend Liz Kantner, who's also a jewelry marketer and the founder of the Stay Gold Collective. We have a free version of the podcast available everywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube, as well as a membership community with extended episodes and additional resources. I invite you to check it out if you're hungry for more content. And just as a side note, if you haven't already signed up, our free content repurposing masterclass is still going for a limited time. This masterclass will give you valuable insights into how we create compelling content for our clients, the creative strategies we use within our team to be efficient and fast so that you don't feel bogged down by your content creation. And by the end of the masterclass, you'll have a simple content plan for an entire month, one full-length blog post optimized for SEO, 4 email campaigns inspired by the blog posts, and 12 social media posts repurposed from the blog posts and emails. If you're feeling overwhelmed with content creation for your jewelry brand, this masterclass is for you. Don't miss out. We're only going to run it for a little bit longer. Visit myjoydeck.com/masterclass to access it, and I'll put that link in the show notes as well. Okay, let's get into today's episode, my sparklers. As I mentioned in the intro, this episode is being released on the same day as the closing ceremony of the 2024 Summer Games. Have you been watching, and what was your favorite sport? On my flight back from New York recently, I think I watched 6 different sports in a row, along with catching highlights of gymnastics, tennis, surfing, all the things. But one thing that really caught my attention as I've been digesting all this content was how intentionally athletes are expressing themselves specifically through jewelry. Growing up, I played some sports, and I was used to this idea that wearing jewelry while playing sports was a big no-no. And of course, in some sports, it still is. Jewelry is considered kind of dangerous and it's prohibited. But you never really think about like sweating in your diamonds or something like that. However, now in 2024, it's so cool to see athletes using jewelry to distinguish themselves, especially if they play a sport where that's okay. And I imagine that when you're required to wear the same uniform as all your teammates and you are a person that likes to express themselves, then finding ways to stand out, like Sha'Carri Richardson with her iconic jewelry-like nail art, well, that becomes really important. And you have to find ways to do that beyond what you're wearing. It's also really fascinating to see how the athletes choose jewelry to wear that kind of fits the demands of their different sports. So, for example, you may see like minimalist studs on swimmers or a close-fitting choker for a fast runner like Noah Lyles, who's the fastest man on the planet. And I've seen a lot of symbolic jewelry too, like Olympic rings on necklaces, or pieces that seem like they might be good luck charms, holding special meaning for the athletes. And some jewelry then is a statement of identity, like Simone Biles' goat necklace, which you've probably seen on Instagram. In this context, it's also really exciting that Chaumet was the first jeweler ever to design the Olympic and Paralympic medals. Coming from their long-standing jewelry tradition, they infused the medals with meaningful elements like the Eiffel Tower is prominently featured, and even a piece of the tower's metal is incorporated into the medal itself, with the angular shape referencing the tower's rivets. And the Paralympic medals also honor Louis Braille with an inscription in Universal Braille, while the other side of the Olympic medals depict Nike emerging from the historic Panathinaik Stadium, symbolizing France's pride and heritage as the host nation. So, okay, what does this all have to do with marketing? You may be asking out there. Well, I will make the connection for you. The visibility of jewelry on a global stage like the Olympics shines a light on why people are drawn to it. Maybe nostalgia, maybe accomplishment, maybe self-expression, maybe even tactile connection. And you see those athletes biting their medals when they're on the podium. These are not just abstract ideas. They are powerful emotional drivers that can be directly applied to your marketing strategies in tangible ways. So let's talk about what those are. The first thing I want to talk about and what we can kind of learn from the Olympics is one, leveraging nostalgia and tradition. So here's an example. Think about how you can connect your jewelry to a sense of history or tradition. Even if you've only been in business for a few years, I think there's still a way to do this in a greater context. For instance, if you have a piece that's inspired by a vintage design or an heirloom style, make that the focal point of your storytelling. Create a story around the piece that taps into memories or a bygone era, much like how Chaumet incorporated elements of French heritage into the Olympic medals. And then use storytelling to create a narrative that resonates with customers' personal or cultural history. This could be through your blog posts, through your social media posts, or even in the descriptions on your product pages. So highlight how your designs are not just pieces of jewelry, but also these like carriers of stories and memories. Number two, highlighting accomplishment and achievement. So for this example, maybe if this makes sense for you, market your jewelry as symbols of achievement. And this is especially relevant if you target a self-purchasing customer. So for instance, consider launching a collection that maybe celebrates milestones like graduations, promotions, anniversaries, or even if you don't want to make a specific collection about that, take pieces that you already have and find a way to tell a similar story about them. Similarly to how Olympic medals symbolize the pinnacle of athletic accomplishment. You could even create a line that's designed to be given as gifts to mark these moments as well. So create marketing assets centered around the idea of wearing your achievements and encourage customers to share their personal stories of accomplishment associated with your jewelry, perhaps through a hashtag campaign or a contest. Then you can feature these stories on your social media channels to build a community around shared success. A third idea or takeaway, emphasizing self-expression and personalization. So here's an example. Customization is a really powerful tool for self-expression. Just look at how Simone Biles' goat necklace serves as a statement of her identity and confidence. And you can offer, if this makes sense to you, or if you already do offer customization options, emphasize how the customization or the tweaks or even them choosing their colorway or whatever choice it may be, how the customer is expressing their individuality through your designs. So the storytelling there is really like own it and show the world, the amazing person you are, the confident and strong decisions you can make, and let the jewelry be a representation of that. So again, if this makes sense to you, if you already offer some level of customization or that's something that you're moving toward, maybe having a really easy to use customization tool on your website lets your customer visualize their finished product. And again, the storytelling around it is that each piece is as unique as the person who wears it. The fourth takeaway is creating a tactile and emotional connection. So jewelry is often bought not just because it's pretty and for its visual appeal, but also for how it feels. And actually being at the New York City trade shows and seeing so many designers finally in person who I've only seen pictures of their jewelry and being able to touch and hold and experience the jewelry reminds me that we also buy jewelry for how it feels sometimes. So think about ways that you can convey this tactile connection in your marketing, even if you don't have that in-person element where you're interacting with customers in person. So maybe videos or visuals that show your jewelry being handled, emphasizing its weight, its texture, and the craftsmanship, and using close-up shots to really capture detail and encourage customers to imagine the feeling of wearing it. If you do have the opportunity to engage with customers in person, then that is a great chance in your one-on-one conversations to highlight those things about it. So not just the oh, look at this beautiful color, look at this pretty gemstone, but oh, put this in your hand and feel the weight of it, or touch the texture, or, wear it and fidget with it. Sometimes we just like to fidget with jewelry. And that helps really create a deeper emotional connection with potential buyers because they're not just wearing it then it also kind of becomes like a part of your body and the way that you engage with the world around you. My fifth takeaway is incorporating symbolism and meaning. So just as athletes wear jewelry that holds personal significance, whether it's for luck, identity, or a connection to something greater, you can infuse your pieces with symbolism that resonates with your audience. And I think, even if you're not necessarily a symbolic jewelry brand or a jewelry brand that focuses on meaning, there are ways that you can bring meaning into the story that you tell behind a piece. And that can be through educational content like blog posts or videos that explain the meanings behind the stones, the design elements. If there are symbols, then talking about those symbols. So in that way, you're positioning your jewelry as like a modern day talisman that can carry personal or cultural significance and make them more than just accessories. And the last takeaway is building a strong brand narrative. So your brand itself should tell a story. Think about how Chaumet's role in the Olympics adds to its legacy. Similarly, ensure that your brand narrative incorporates elements of tradition, craftsmanship, personal connection. And this narrative should be consistent across all your marketing channels and touch points. So, of course, develop a cohesive brand story that ties together not just you, the creator, the maker, but ties you, your products, your history, the emotional value, the why, the what customers want to feel, see, hear, and know. And use this narrative in everything from your about page to your social media bios to your product descriptions. This consistency in messaging will help reinforce the emotional connection your brand aims to create. And by tapping into these emotional drivers like nostalgia, accomplishment, self-expression, tactile connection, and symbolism, you can create marketing strategies that go beyond the surface level appeal and deeply resonate with your audience. So reflect on how you can incorporate these elements into your own brand's story and marketing efforts. And I encourage you to experiment with these ideas, adapt them to your unique brand voice, and see how they can transform the way you connect with your customers. So what do you think? Have the Olympics sparked any new ideas or inspiration for your business and marketing strategies? Let me know in a comment on YouTube or DM me on Instagram what you think. Okay, let's get into the gold mine. Welcome to the gold mine segment. This is where I get personal and share insights on entrepreneurship, mindset, success, growth, all things business. And in this week's Gold Mine, I want to share my experiences attending the summer trade shows in New York City, including New York Now, Melly, and Megan Patrice Riley's Spotlight Designer Jewelry presentation. But first, I want to give a huge shout out to Robin Kramer and Liz Kantner for spearheading the Curated at Luxury lifestyle event at New York Now, featuring 16 trailblazing designers, half of which are seasoned New York Now veterans, while the other half was making their New York Now debut, and in some cases, first-time trade show. And I know how much work, speaking to Robin and Liz, went into mentoring these designers, as well as the immense effort the designers put into preparing their merchandising, doing their retailer outreach, because I work with some of them and I heard all the behind the scenes. And I just want to say kudos to everyone involved. I had the pleasure of speaking and spending time with nearly every designer, learning about their stories, trying on the jewelry, and they were also incredibly kind and fun to talk to and passionate. And I can't even name a favorite because I just loved everything I saw. But my very favorite part was listening to them pitch their collections, because I asked them to pretend I was a buyer, sharing their stories and walking me through their assortments. And they all really excelled at storytelling and explaining how certain pieces are designed to be worn, displayed, collected over time. And it was also so fascinating to see how designers are addressing the high gold prices, because that was a topic that came up over and over and over. And it's great to see, how different people are approaching this, and it's all being approached in different ways. Some are offering mixed metals, or maybe they don't exclusively offer mixed metals, but that was the assortment they brought to the trade show, or alternative metals, or even 9-karat gold options to make the pieces feel more accessible. And then on the other hand, some designers remain true to their brand identity by continuing to work in high-karat gold, like 22-karat. And that to me is equally impressive, that despite the high gold prices, like this is their brand identity and they don't want to stray too far from that. And so I think all of the approaches are equally as important and should be considered. And then Melly was another highlight of my trip. If you've never been, it's a cool and sophisticated show with a vibe I just really enjoyed. It feels like a relaxed place to shop as a buyer and just a great environment to strike up conversations. It's such a nice venue. The focus is on building relationships. There's an intimate atmosphere, great lighting, a fun soiree-like feel. And what's really unique about Melly is that the playing field is leveled in a way because everyone's setup there looks exactly the same on the outside. And the only difference is what's inside each brand's case, as well as the story that would be told by the maker or makers behind it. And this setup really creates a fantastic opportunity for buyers to discover new brands and strike up meaningful conversations. And then lastly, I attended a mini wholesale event, the 13th biannual Spotlight Designer Jewelry presentation hosted by Megan Patrice Riley. And this event is a mix of jewelry presentation, trade show, and hangout, and it connects independent design-driven jewelry brands with retail partners. And it had this really fun and casual vibe. And I was so happy to see the event was packed. Perfect setting for chatting with the designers, networking, and meeting new people. If I saw you at any of these events, it was such a pleasure to connect. I had so many wonderful conversations and saw so much incredible jewelry. And keep an eye out also for an upcoming episode of the Success with Jewelry podcast I co-host with Liz Kantner, because Liz and I will also share our takes on the New York City shows, as well as specific designer highlights. Were you in New York City? Let me know your take. Drop your thoughts in a YouTube comment or DM me on Instagram. I'd love to hear about it. Did you have any questions about today's episode? Don't forget to check out the free content repurposing masterclass if you haven't signed up already. That's at myjoydeck.com/masterclass. Link in the show notes as well. If you ever want to reach out, you can always email me, Larissa. That's LARYSSA@joyjoya.com. If you love this podcast, please share it with a friend who'd appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe, as well as leave a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're completely new to digital marketing, then you'll want to purchase and read a copy of my book, Jewelry Marketing Joy. Visit joyjoya.com/book for more information.